What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Alright guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over Secret Invasion. Now, Secret Invasion was basically the storyline that Marvel did back in 2008 as a way to kind of do something new and interesting with the alien race known as the Skrulls. Now, the Skrulls have the ability to shapeshift. And that right there is very important because what the Skrulls basically did was they began to kidnap people left and right. And the people that they have kidnapped, they began to pretend to be those people as a way to do a secret invasion. Now, the reason why they're invading the Earth is because for two different reasons. So many years ago, the Skrulls were told in a prophecy that one day down the road, the Earth would be theirs to use. And so on top of that, the Illuminati also went to the Skrulls' homeworld at that time and told the Skrulls if they ever come back to Earth ever again to attack the Earth, the Illuminati and the rest of the heroes of Earth would make the Skrulls pay for their crimes. Now, of course, with the prophecy and with that threat right there, the Skrulls began to do a secret invasion. Now, we have covered a lot of different content when it comes to Secret Invasion. We did all the preludes, we did some of the main storyline, and some of the tie-ins as well. But today's video is for one of the most random kind of stories to be told for a tie-in for this event. And I feel like they knew no one would read this story, but they used the name of Spider-Man as a way to kind of get people to buy this book. And what I mean by that is when it comes to Secret Invasion Spider-Man, the tie-in for today's video we're doing, it's not really even about Spider-Man. It's about the side characters who you see in Spider-Man comics at that time when they were doing Secret Invasion. Because if you have been following my videos for Secret Invasion, Spider-Man is nowhere near New York. He's with the rest of the Avengers right now in the Savage Land fighting against an army of Skrulls who are also pretending to be other heroes who may or may not been supposedly kidnapped by the Skrulls over the years in Marvel Comics. And so with that being said, right now you do have this storyline, this three-part storyline that really focuses on the side characters in Spider-Man comics that were coming out at this time when we had Secret Invasion. Now, the reason why we're doing this is one, I want you guys to see how pointless this story was. But on top of that, I want you guys to realize how hard Marvel tried to make a certain character become really popular and was really hoping that fans would love this character so much that maybe, just maybe, she'll become the next big hit for Marvel Comics. And that character is Jackpot. And honestly, when I read this tie-in series, I was so confused on why it was called Secret Invasion Spider-Man. And now I know why. Because all the side characters in Spider-Man comics are in the storyline except Spider-Man, and that is it. Now, the first page of this story actually tells us what we're going to see later on in this storyline. Because right now, in the present day, we actually pick up with Jackpot right now fighting against a Skrull that has the powers of some of Spider-Man's greatest villains. Now, of course, we're trying to figure out how in the world do we get to this point right here? Because right now, this is point B. Where is point A? And so we are going to go back in time to basically lead up to this moment right here to figure out how in the world did Jackpot end up fighting against someone who is a Skrull, who's holding the powers of some of the greatest villains of Spider-Man, but this guy is looking for Spider-Man. Now, with that being said, though, I do want to mention one thing about Jackpot. This is actually the second Jackpot. Let me explain. So back in 2008, I want to say, in Amazing Spider-Man number 546, you had this character appear. This is the second Jackpot, Elena Jobson. The first Jackpot, Sarah, and I forgot her first name, was the original Jackpot, but she wanted to no longer be a hero anymore. And so basically she gave the identity over to Elena, the current Jackpot. Now, when Marvel made this Jackpot right here, it was really Marvel kind of playing around with the idea that this could be Mary Jane in a superhero costume. Oh my gosh, because no one actually knew her identity just yet. So when she appeared and when she was around, nobody actually knew who this character was. It's just that she was some female character out there in New York who was a registered superhero fighting along Spider-Man. And of course, because she had red hair, it was Marvel trying to tease the idea that she was Mary Jane. Unfortunately, though, it was not Mary Jane. It was Elena Jobson. And so that is her origin story right there when it comes to this second version of Jackpot. Now, when it comes to Jackpot, a lot of her powers actually comes from the mutant growth hormone. Now, this is technically a drug that is used to unlock different abilities for you to use. And so for Jackpot, she got really more superhuman abilities. So super speed, super strength, and super durability. And that's really it about the character. She only lasted for a couple years and then Marvel said, whoop, bye, later. But getting back into today's storyline, we actually pick up in the past as a way for us to begin the process of working our way up to figuring out how in the world did Jackpot end up fighting against a Super Skrull that is holding the powers of different villains of Spider-Man, but also looking for Spider-Man. And so we start off in the past, last night, where right now you do have Jackpot at this warehouse. Now, while she's at this warehouse, she is watching a bunch of men move a bunch of boxes. Now, all these men she thinks works for a guy known as Walter D. Clune. Now, Walter D. Clune is honestly not that important for this storyline, but it's Jackpot trying to prove that Walter is, well, a corrupt businessman. And what he's doing right now is doing some illegal moving and illegal things as well on the side. And so you have her at this warehouse taking pictures of these men who are moving boxes left and right and minding their businesses. Now, you do have Jackpot go down there because she thinks she has enough proof to prove that Walter is a corrupt businessman. But on top of that, what he's holding in this warehouse is possibly more illegal things. Well, after she does fight against these guys and basically defeats them, she comes to find out that this warehouse is actually a legit warehouse business because all it stores in this warehouse is DVD players. And so she realized that she just basically raided a legit business warehouse. And now that looks bad for her as a superhero. But then we pick up with Vin Gonzalez. Now, Vin Gonzalez is basically a police officer in New York. And he's also at this point in Marvel Comics, the roommate to Peter Parker. Now, right now, he's looking for Peter Parker because it's the first of the month. And we all know what that means. Rent is due. And so basically, he's coming to Peter Parker for Peter's half of the rent. The problem is, though, Peter is not there because we know that Peter is right now in Savage Land fighting against the rest of the Avengers against an army of Skrulls. And so it's been kind of like, man, rent is due and I can't find Peter anywhere. What are we going to do for rent this time of the month? But then we jump over to the Coffee Bean. Now, the Coffee Bean is kind of like this hangout spot for a lot of different people, just a random coffee shop where you do have Vin Gonzalez meet up with the rest of the characters who are basically side characters in Spider-Man's comics. So like Harry Osborn, his wife Liz Allen, also Carly Cooper. Now, I don't know at this point if Peter and Carly are dating yet. I do know they do date down the road, but I don't know has it happened yet when it comes to the timeline where Secret Invasion basically takes place in. Either way, though, these are all different characters who are going to be somewhat important for this storyline, and they're all looking for Peter Parker. Now, Carly Cooper is actually not going going to be that important for this storyline. She's just here to remind people like, hey, I'm also a side character in Spider-Man comics. Hey, and that's really it. But of course, you do have everyone tell Vin that no, they have not seen Peter Parker at all. And so then we actually pick up with Jackpot. Now, when we do, it is the following day after the warehouse incident, where right now she does see today's paper from the Daily Bugle. And right now, today's paper is calling her a bad superhero because she did raid a legit warehouse business. And so right now, she's very upset with the idea that the Daily Bugle is basically giving her name a bad rep. And so right now, her goal is to basically go confront the person in charge of the Daily Bugle. Now, when she does arrive, she also has this lady that was actually sent by the American government known as Helen, who basically is trying to help her fix her image after what the Daily Bugle has done. Because when it comes to Jackpot, she is a registered hero. Let me explain. So back in 2006, Marvel had this storyline called Civil War, where basically a law was made saying that if you're going to be a superhero, you have to work under the American government. Now, not every single hero liked that law. And so you had some people fight against it, and some people actually worked with the law. And so when it came to Jackpot, she's one of those characters who actually agreed with the law. And so right now you have the American government, or the people in charge of this act, basically sent Helen down to go talk to the person in charge of the Daily Bugle to kind of rework the image that he's trying to say about Jackpot, because the person in charge of the Daily Bugle is right now giving Jackpot a bad image. Now, at this point in Marvel Comics, J. Jonah Jameson was not the one in charge of the Daily Bugle. Matter of fact, the one in charge right now is Dexter Bennett. Now, with that being said, though, when it comes to Dexter, he's basically a guy right now who has turned the Daily Bugle into a tabloid magazine, meaning that most of their articles are just trash articles. They're just stories about celebrities doing crazy things, and that is it. It's not really articles that have some interesting and very good viewpoints about different things happening around the city or the world. And so with that, you do have Robinson very upset with how Dexter has turned the Daily Bugle into. And so with that, with basically Jackpot raiding that warehouse business that was legit, of course, it gave Dexter another trashy article to basically use for his paper to get more money, because he knows that people really do love trashy articles. Now, you do have Helen try her best to kind of argue with Dexter to basically kind of write a news story that does fix the image of Jackpot. But of course, while you have all these different characters arguing with one another, it is going to lead into, of course, Secret Invasion. Now, when it comes to these tie-ins for Secret Invasion, it will focus on two different groups. The first group, or really the second group, will be Harry Osborn and Liz Allen, because right now you have the two characters going to buy a car, but of course, as they're on their way to the dealership, that is the moment the invasion has fully begun on Earth, and you have the Skrulls right now sending bunch of super Skrulls with powers to different areas across the world, especially a lot of Skrulls to New York. And so with Harry Osborn and Liz Allen, as they were walking down and minding their business, they were confronted by a Skrull. Now, getting back over to the other group, we actually do pick up with Jackpot right now with the rest of the side characters in Spider-Man comics. So Robertson, Dexter, Betty Brant, and also Helen, I guess, for this storyline. And Vin is downstairs in the Daily Bugle, but he's going to work his way up. And the reason why we do jump over to these characters is because right now they basically have been confronted by Spider-Man. Now, at first, you kind of wonder how in the world can Spider-Man be here? But in the main storyline, Spider-Man is fighting with the Avengers in the Savage Land, fighting against the Skrulls. And so with that being said, you have everyone confused on why in the world Spider-Man is here. But then you have Spider-Man actually fight against Jackpot. Now, when he does begin to punch Jackpot, that is the moment you realize this is not Spider-Man. This is someone else. And then that's the moment we come to find out that this Spider-Man is not Spider-Man. It is a Skrull who has basically taken the form of Spider-Man. But the thing is, this Skrull Spider-Man is actually looking for the real Spider-Man. Now, once you have Jackpot realize that basically she is fighting against a Skrull that is right now pretending to be Spider-Man, but at the same time looking for Spider-Man, she does fight against him, and it does lead to a battle where they're basically sharing blows with one another. Now, at the end of the first chapter, once she's actually able to somewhat get a few punches in, but then he gives her one heck of a punch, that is the moment you do have this Spider-Man Skrull begin to actually change into this form where we can see that he is holding different powers of different villains of Spider-Man. So the Lizard, Venom, it looks like Green Goblin, or this could be his Skrull face, Electro, and Rhino. And so right now, she has to fight against a Super Skrull that is holding the different powers of Spider-Man's villains. And so as we jump into the second chapter, we actually do pick up with Vin right now running up the staircase of the Daily Bugle to hopefully figure out what he saw earlier, which was something crashing into the Daily Bugle, which was, of course, the Spider-Man Skrull, who's now basically the Sinister Six Skrull, possibly. Either way, though, when he does run up to the top of the staircase, he does see what's actually happening right now at the Daily Bugle. Because while he was running up the staircase, he did see a bunch of people running away, freaking out, because what they saw on the top floor, which was Jackpot fighting against the Super Skrull. And so when he arrived at the top of the staircase, he does see Jackpot fighting against the Super Skrull. And he's kind of like, what do I even do in this situation? Like, there's nothing I can really do in this situation at all right now at the moment. So you do have Jackpot tell Vin and the rest of the staff of the Daily Bugle to run away because honestly, they're in the way. What can they possibly do to help her defeat something like this right now? Because of course, this dude is holding different powers of different supervillains that Spider-Man had fought over the years in Marvel Comics. And so she does tell them, you guys need to basically leave right now. Like, get the heck out of here while I try to hold him off long enough so that we all can be able and basically get out of here. So we do jump over to Harry Osborn and Liz Allen. Now, when we do see that they are surrounded by some Super Skrulls who are basically part of this invasion that's happening right now all over the earth. Now, of course, you do have these two Skrulls actually planning on killing off Harry and Liz. Now, right when the two Skrulls are about to attack Harry and Liz, they do cause a hole in the building right next to Harry and Liz, which of course does give Harry and Liz the ability to run away from these two Skrulls. Now, when they do that, they do run into a car dealership, which is perfect because you did have Harry and Liz find a car that has keys left inside of it, and they use that car as a way to basically get away from these Skrulls. Now, this section right here also shows how much that Harry Osborn does not like Spider-Man, because you do have Liz wondering, where are the heroes? Where is Spider-Man to come save the day? And for Harry, he hates the idea to hear Liz basically say the name Spider-Man to come save her. Like, he feels like as her husband, as her man, the only person that should be saving her is basically him. And so he tells her, we don't need Spider-Man. I got you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to keep saving you all the time. But then we jump over to Jackpot in the Daily Bugle crew, where we basically see them right now still trying to get away from this Super Skrull. Now we do see all of our characters get inside Robbie Robertson's car, and he's the driver of this car. And the reason why, because when it comes to Robbie in his past life, he was known as this amazing driver. Like basically when he was young, he was always losing cops left and right because of his driving skills. And so of course they're kind of like, you have to drive the vehicle because you're probably our best shot of losing this creature who is after us right now, while you have Jackpot on top of the car to protect the Daily Bugle crew. Now, the reason why this Super Skrull is coming after the Daily Bugle crew and Jackpot is because he is looking for Spider-Man, but these characters smell like Spider-Man because all of these side characters and Spider-Man comics have been around Peter Parker or Spider-Man over a certain period of time. And so, of course, with this Super Skrull looking for Spider-Man, he's kind of like, y'all smell like Peter Parker, or you smell like Spider-Man, and that's who I'm looking for. So somebody here is Spider-Man, or somebody knows where I can find Spider-Man. And so that is why you have this Super Skrull just basically chasing after the staff of the Daily Bugle and also Jackpot. But then we jump over to Harry Osborn and Liz Allen. Now, right now, they're still driving away in the car they basically stole from that car dealership. But at the same time, I guess it is okay because they do need the car to basically get away from the Skrulls. There's a whole invasion happening right now. Either way, though, you do have Harry Osborn right now getting very upset with Liz Allen. And not really at her, but what she's basically saying. And the reason why, because is right now you have Liz basically saying that she wished that a hero would come in and save the day, even Spider-Man. And this shows that Harry hates the idea of anybody else trying to save his wife's life because he feels like that he is her man. The only person that should basically save her is him, nobody else. And so right now you have her kind of like, oh my God, where's Spider-Man? Where's Iron Man? You know, Thor, someone to come save the day. Is Harry saying, no, the only person that should save your life is me because I'm your husband. Now, as you have Harry and Liz driving the car they had technically stole, they have to crash the car because they were attacked by a Skrull, which does end up with these two characters getting split up. Now, Harry does try to get back to Liz, but unfortunately he can't do it because a Skrull appears and begins to attack him. And right when it seems like Harry is about to die, well, that is the moment something or someone takes out the Skrull that was about to kill off Harry. And of course, we know it had to be somebody because they say, hey, you are not going to kill him at all. And they continue to fly away. But then we jump over to Jackpot in the cast from the Daily Bugle, where right now you do have Jackpot trying to defend the cast from the Daily Bugle against this Super Skrull, because Robbie's right now is trying to use a car that he has as a way to lose this Skrull, but unfortunately this Skrull is not going to give up, and so it does continue to chase down the cast of the Daily Bugle, but also Jackpot as well. And so this does lead into another battle between Jackpot and the Skrull, but on top of Robbie's car. But while you have the two characters fighting against one another, you then have the Skrull actually throw Jackpot away. And that right there is a huge problem because she doesn't have that many different superpowers to give her the ability to actually catch up with the Skrull in the cast of the Daily Bugle. And so she's kind of like, how in the world am I going to catch up now? But that is the moment she does get caught by somebody else. And that person is Menace. And Menace was a character that was made in the mid-2000s to be a new kind of goblin for Spider-Man to fight against. And honestly, I am going to leave it at that right there because the whole Menace drama is actually very annoying. But now with Jackpot basically dealing with Menace, you do have this Super Scroll kind of like, cool, now she's gone. I can focus on you guys, basically talking about the cast of the Daily Bugle. But it's him saying, now I can focus on you guys because one of you guys is Spider-Man or know how I can find Spider-Man. And so the scroll is about to attack someone in this car to hopefully get the information that he's actually looking for. And so getting into the final chapter, we actually do pick up right now with Menace fighting against Jackpot. Now, while fighting against one another, you do have Menace trying to kill off Jackpot. Now, this is not the first time these two characters had actually met. And matter of fact, Jackpot has been trying to stop Menace for a good period of time at this point in Marvel Comics. Now for Jackpot, she's trying to unmask Menace to finally learn who in the world is behind the mask of Menace. Because when Menace was made, nobody actually knew who was behind the mask of this new Goblin character that Marvel had basically made in the mid-2000s. Now you do have the two characters continue to fight against one another, and Jackpot is unable to actually unmask Menace because apparently the mask won't just come off that easily when it comes to Menace, but you also have Menace trying to drop Jackpot mid-air because Menace realized Jackpot does not have any kind of flying abilities to basically save herself if she's falling out of the sky. But getting back over to the Daily Bugle cast, you do have the Daily Bugle group right now still trying to get away from the scroll, but unfortunately the scroll was able to catch up to them. Now, once the scroll has them where he wants them, he does begin to ask once again, who is Spider-Man? Because again, he can smell Spider-Man on them. Now, you then have Betty Brant actually begin to do this thing where she kind of points out how each character in the car right now cannot be Spider-Man. Starting off with Robbie, I think she said is too tall. For Dexter, he's too old. And so it comes down to her and Vin. Now, of course, Vin probably does fit the bill better than she does, but you had a scroll basically grab her just in case this is her trying to trick him and say, oh, she's actually Spider-Man, but she just trying to trick everybody and say she's not Spider-Man. Now, we can tell she's not Spider-Man. We all know that. But for the sake of the story, it's kind of like maybe she is Spider-Man to the scroll's brain right now. And so he does grab her, and it does look like he's about to kill her off. But that is the moment you do have Menace and also Jackpot appear. And when they do appear, they crash right on top of this Super Scroll. And that is huge because it does cause a huge explosion, which of course does kind of end everything, it seems, for Jackpot, this Super Scroll, Menace, and the cast from the Daily Bugle. And so once they crash, you do have Jackpot get up and show that she's okay. It does look like Menace has gotten away and the Super Scroll was basically defeated. And so you do have the cast of the Daily Bugle and Jackpot kind of celebrate the idea that they survived. But then the cast begins to run away from Jackpot. And that's when she realized, oh my gosh, the Super Scroll is right behind me, isn't he? And of course, he is. And so this does lead into another battle between the Super Scroll and also Jackpot, where you actually do have Jackpot being able to actually deal with the Super Scroll, where she's actually able to defeat him. Now, it does get wrapped up in a few pages, and honestly, I'm not going to sit here and try to explain how in the world she did defeat him, but she was able to actually defeat the Super Scroll to save her own life, but also the staff from the Daily Bugle. And so the day is saved when it comes to Jackpot dealing with this Super Scroll. Now, when it comes to Secret Invasion Spider-Man number 3, it was the last issue of this tie-in series, but it did come out at the very end of Secret Invasion, where basically at this point in the timeline, Spider-Man does come back from the Savage Land. And when he does, you do have him and Jackpot kind of catch up and tell each other everything they had went through thanks to the invasion. The problem is, though, while she's talking and telling Spider-Man everything she did for the staff of the Daily Bugle, well, that is the moment she comes to find out that Dexter basically took that moment to make himself look good, because the next day's paper shows him saying that he saved the day, or he saved his staff from a Super Skrull all by himself. And so for Jackpot, she's kind of like, seriously? I saved his life and he basically took my work and said it was him who saved the day? That is a complete, total you know what. And so she gets very upset, but you have Spider-Man leave to go enjoy the rest of his day. And really the story kind of ends on that note right there, because you do have basically Peter go back and meet up with the rest of his side characters from his book, where basically they're kind of like, Peter, where were you? He's like, oh, I was in Queens while the whole invasion thing was happening, even though we know Homeboy was with the Avengers fighting against the Skrulls in the Savage Land. But for Jackpot, she does go back home. Now, honestly, I feel like this book was really made to kind of, again, promote the idea of Jackpot, but also continue the idea of like, ooh, is Jackpot Mary Jane? Even though we know that she's not Mary Jane, because the last page does continue the idea of hinting that she could be Mary Jane and you guys have no idea about it, but we all kind of like, we know it's not Mary Jane. Either way, though, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.